What's up, people? One Nut Punch here. Take a look at a game for $30 I picked up on Steam called HELLSWEEPER VR. And when you spawn underneath a Torii gate, you go into this, small area, and this will be your hub world. You can come here and train your different types of attacks, like your sword swings, the guns that you get, as well as a fireball spell or fire spell that can do a couple of different alternate things. So let's go ahead and talk about what this game is, how it plays, and why for some reason it feels like Painkiller, but in VR and, more stuff to do. The first thing about HELLSWEEPER is that it's a roguelike, and it's a roguelike VR shooter. What you're doing is you're going into these areas, kind of like Mother Gunship Forge, or like if you were able to play those first-person shooters that were not VR, like RoboQuest, Dead Link, and now Battle Shapers, which is something I kind of mess with. This is more along the lines of those, except they're quite small in comparison to some of the fights you have. There is different difficulty modes, like you have normal, hard, easy, peaceful, friendly, and then they have the different modifiers there. But when you get your guns and your weapons, you have a different way to summon them. So if you're playing on the MetaQuest 2 like I am, essentially you take the grip and then you move to the left or right, like inward or outward. That will be how to bring the guns to you, like the gun of the person you're currently playing as. It has 6 shots. Then you have a sword that does like a runic type of high roll slash. Like if you hold down the trigger, a modifier for that will let you swing at somebody and do like beams. The gun will have laser sights, 2 more additional magazine size, or it'll do like a ricochet. And all you have to do for that is basically tilt it, shoot it sideways, and the bullets will bounce and hit the enemies towards you. The other thing, when it comes down to the fire, you can actually do different types of spells with it, but you have to unlock them as you go, as a roguelike would be. So, for example, you get the fireball spell. You could hold down the trigger button and then push forward, and it'll do like a flamethrower that does it for a couple of seconds. If you take the fireball and smash them both together, you can turn into a flame tornado that will kill stuff around you, and you'll float above for a specific amount of time. Just depends on how much mana you have. Like I'm showing here, you have the dual-wielding pistols that you could summon, as well as dual-wielding swords. And the chopping is pretty good. You can actually stick stuff, pull it apart, dismember it, as well as slow down time and do style kills. For example, if you keep chopping them up, you could actually put things in the air and juggle it right before it dies from, whatever damage you have from guns or swords. And you can mix and match too. Like, for example, using the fire spell to throw fire like a flamethrower and then shoot at enemies with your gun, or take your gun and shoot with the sword by using the slash attack that does like the beams. And that really depends on, again, how much mana you might have, but I mostly did the Baleful Spite, which would allow me to do more damage per swing, and then you can get increased damage for your gun. But there are different masteries that will allow you to do 2 sections right now. Not a whole lot of different unlocks for when you first start off the game. Then again, though, I was only able to get the first boss and lost because I haven't really figured out how to deal with them. They say that you use a concussion spell or something to deal with the shields, and it will allow you to break through and do damage to them. But I wanted to show off what it would look like when you try to shoot the gun sideways, because it does do the ricochet as the alt fire for the gun. As for the gun themselves, if you want to reload, all you'd have to do is flick it left or right. The cylinder will pop out and load by itself. Or if you take the trigger button and flick down with it, you'll get the actual bullets in your hand, and you could put them into the gun by a circle like icon next to it, and it will modify / boost the damage of your gun, which is, I think, 2 different charges. Another thing to note when you get into these arena fights is that they will have statues in different types of sections. For example, not every single fight will be a fight. It'll be like a time puzzle level to where you have to find these different colored shapes that will unlock this chest. Then you'll have these other places to where you have to find a couple of keys to unlock a couple of chests. For example, there'll be one with 3 keys, and then another one with 1 key that if you could find from these statues that you break. Some of them will shoot back at you, other times they'll have a different color, but you'll see them on the side of the actual walls, that if you shoot them or cut them, they'll break apart and give whatever's inside, like gold and a key, that will be needed to unlock the 3 key or 1 key chest, and they will be pretty much every single combat. Maybe sometimes they won't be in special event areas or boss fights, but they're mostly in the main areas before you go do that. So, getting into the actual game itself with some of the other mechanics besides the swords that have a beam, the pistols that have their different reload and, of course, charge, as well as being able to shoot them and bring them out. Like I said, if you want to summon your guns, you would have to go inward or outward. It'll tell you in a tutorial as you play the game. But they have their different mix and match ones too. There were some other things in the store page before I purchased it, like an axe that extends out and does weird transformation stuff. Haven't really seen that. Mostly just had upgraded increased damage, 20% more mana. And then the other thing about this game is movement. And some would say, is it nauseating? To be honest, no. And I played Sirento and Raw Data, and they both made me sick as hell. This one did not. And what you do have is you have bullet time, which is pretty short. It doesn't last very long, maybe about like 2 or 3 seconds. And then you have a jumping mechanic to where you flick with the thumbstick. And it's 2 jumps. And then when you hit the ground, it resets and you can do it again. And I thought that to be pretty cool. The other thing was a somersault, but because I had issues with it, and because my room is very small, I didn't bother doing the somersault, just the jumps and, you know, messing around with the telekinesis ability that lets you pick up different things and throw it at the enemy and kill them. So HELLSWEEPER for $30. I will state that it is pretty pricey for what it is, but for what I've actually messed with so far and how I felt, and honestly thinking that the game was going to make me super sick, it is very, very enjoyable. It felt a lot like playing Doom Eternal or Painkiller, to where I get in there with fast fluid movement, killing these different demons that are coming at me, and like having, you know, these other different types of skills and weapons I could use to combo up different things, especially being able to shoot with all my bullets and then fire into a tornado of flames. It's really fun to play. Plus, it's decently sized. I mean, you have like 5 or 6 different levels before you fight the boss, and I don't know how many acts there are in the game. There might be a couple more than like if I play Light Brigade, which is like 3 acts, and then I fight the final boss. But I will say for $30 on HELLSWEEPER, this is definitely a pickup for anybody that wants to try something new with VR. I didn't have much issues in terms of like problems with the game itself. Mostly just my VR being trashy, but hey, if some things work out, maybe I can actually get a decent VR again, like I had for my Vive, which the visor was burnt out and both controllers didn't track anymore, so I really couldn't keep it and the warranty was basically gone. So I thought about getting the Reverb G2 or trying for the Valve Index. Not really sure. I'm just hoping that some things work out in a couple of days. But anyway, the last thing I wanted to tell you about this game is that when you get into the tutorial, the person guiding you is not a demon, I guess, so much as he looks like a bug. He's like a beetle, and you put him in your ear, and he will be your guide for doing tutorials and how to play the game itself. Just kind of letting people know that if they don't like bugs, that he is a thing. So I don't think you could really change him very much, and he does like some weird shit and talks about you and whatever. So, like I said, this has been HELLSWEEPER. And I want to do another VR playthrough of a game because, to be honest, I've been wanting to play more of my VR stuff ever since they put out mods for Blade and Sorcery. And Light Brigade had the Memories of War update too. So, that being said, I've been One Nut Punch. This has been another video. I'll see y'all later in the next one.